Please be seated. And God said, "Let there be light." It's the third verse of Genesis, and God is creating light and making creation visible. God is taking a formless and lifeless void and giving it form and life. Since the beginning, light has been a constant for our life. Early humans likely spent countless hours scheming and dreaming and figuring out how to contain fire so that they may live and thrive. I am no philosophy expert, but I think Plato was on to something in the allegory of the cave, presenting shadows cast as our reality and the light of the fire, our sun, being the truth. Even in our modern life, we are in search of light in decorative ways around the house. How will this lamp match up with the couch and the bookshelf at the same time? How many smart bulbs can I install in the house to connect to my Amazon Alexa so that, God forbid, I never have to touch a light switch ever again? Even here at the church, we are installing new LED lights in the sanctuary, and I have never heard a choir so excited about being able to read their music well during worship. Light is so much a part of our life. And for me, light has encapsulated many of my fondest memories of growing up in the church. For me, one of my absolute favorite services was the Christmas Eve service. At my home church, we had 3 or 4 unique services throughout the day, but my family, we always went to the 11 p.m. service, which to go to church at 11 p.m., you got to be somewhat dedicated. There was always this magical quality of entering the sanctuary when it was pitch black outside, and yet inside it was full of light and full of people. As I grew older, this service became even more meaningful because it was almost entirely led by the youth. The ministers, they would preach the sermon, they would serve the communion, but youth did the liturgy, the ushering, the directing of everything. And as I became a youth, it was such an honor to be a part of that service for my years of youth ministry. But what really made this service so awesome was near the end, after the sermon, we would come up to be served communion, and after being served, we would start going back out towards the sides, and you would be given a candle. And slowly we would form a circle around the entire sanctuary. We would sing together the classic soft Christmas hymns, Away in the Manger, Silent Night. And then the youth would come around with lit candles and begin sharing that light with one another. The lights would slowly dim down, and as we grew closer to the first minutes of Christmas, here we were gathered together as the light in the darkness. The scripture that was read this morning is from Matthew, and it's at the beginning of what is known as the Sermon on the Mount. Now, this is near the beginning of Jesus' ministry, and word of his works and deeds is spreading across the land. People are following him, and in this moment, Jesus looks and he sees all of God's children. He sits down and he teaches them. The Sermon on the Mount, for me, marks one of the most poignant moments of Jesus' humanity. As much as he healed, performed miraculous events, and provided a clearer understanding of God's being, Jesus took the time to teach those around him. When Jesus was resurrected and left this earth, he called upon his disciples to go out and teach, just as he had taught. I am thankful that I grew up in a church very dedicated to teaching its children and youth and helping them to grow in the faith. I was at church every Sunday, and I was in Sunday school class every week. Now, did I always want to be at church? No. There was sleeping in to do. There was TV to watch. There was literally anything else in the entire world. But my mom told me I was going, and she took me every week. And I guess when your mom is a teacher and signs up to teach Sunday school every year, it just kind of goes with the territory. And as much as I could have been doing other things, I don't remember a time in life where I hated going. And I promise you, this had nothing to do with the curriculum that the director of Christian education chose. It had nothing to do with who the youth director was at the time. It had everything to do with the teachers. To this day, I can remember Miss Johnson. She demanded your respect, but she did it with so much love and an equal amount of giving us respect that we gave her all of our attention and admiration. She was the one who took us aside one day and taught us how to shake an adult's hand. She is the one that during a summer of vacation Bible school, when there were not older youth to have an entire class, she volunteered, created, and carried out an interactive VBS where she drove us around the entire city with educational events all over. She was the one who came up to me on the day of my ordination, hugged me, and said how proud she was. I remember Mr. Bryan. He was the saint who taught 7th and 8th grade Sunday school for over a decade. When our energy level would inevitably get too high, he would cross his arms and he would stare at us and say, "Are we done yet?" He approached scripture and life lessons with humor, a loving spirit, and gratitude. He taught middle school Sunday school for over a decade when he could have been doing anything else. And when I am at home, he is one of the people I always try to find and visit. And I did not choke up this much at the 8:30 service. These are just some of the people who were the light in my life. And as a young person who struggled with self-confidence and self-worth, having that life in my life remains one of the most meaningful ways anyone could have been there for me. When we gather as a community and as a church, we gather in a sense of belonging. And I bet few of you adults are here today because your mother woke you up and told you to get dressed for church. I bet even fewer of you are here because one day you threw a dart at a map of Boulder, and when it landed on the corner of Pine and Broadway, you said to yourself, "Well, I heard that's a really nice church and they have ample parking, so I think I'll go there." You are here because in some way, somehow, you were led to this church, and now you are a part of the light of this church. You help this church to shine in the community, and you are the salt of the earth when you help this community stand for justice and equality in the world. Today, we celebrate all the education that is provided in this community. Just as Jesus called the children to him and taught everyone around him, so too are we called to be teachers in imitation of Christ. I would like to kindly remind all of you that you have the opportunity to be the light in the life of a young person here at the church. And before you say to yourself, no, I could never do that, let me assure you that you are equipped with all the skills and ability to show up and to make a difference. It is your presence that is important. You do not need to be a scholar or a perfect person. You just need to show up and love them. Our children and youth programs are going to be doing some pretty awesome things, and we would love for you to be a part of it. Deborah and I invite you into this world of creativity and conviction, of imagination and resilience. And if you enter into this world with an open heart, I can promise you it will be filled. You are the light of this church. Do not hide it. Thanks be to God. Amen.